Welcome in, everybody. Getting ready to just go through a little bit of the final, I guess, things for the season as we wrap up our NASCAR racing season. Just talking about, just talking about what this season was. Kind of, I don't know, trying to put into words, I guess, what the season ended up like.
Suit up, Spartans. This is war-zone firefight. You're the last boots on the ground.
Alright, you see if this is booting up yet? Says it's public, excellent condition. Alright, still making sure everything's launching. Whee! Run, my boy. Run, my boy.
Round one.
Soldier guard.
Incoming Promethean threat.
Oh, I need to change my thing to live chat. Live chat. There we go.
It's a soldier guard.
Alright, let's see if anyone's popped in yet. Wait. Alright, anybody popped in yet? Nope, still waiting. Gotta wait for the chat to refresh. It takes a little bit. Alright, let's see here. Is it loaded in yet? It's getting closer. Not sure what's going on. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear everything. What do we got here? That's always nice to have a few of. Alrighty, so as we get ready,
Round two.
defending the West Armory.
Respawn timer increased. Defend the armory, Spartan.
No, still waiting. The chat's not working for some reason. Oh, I got wrecked. Audio's good? Okay, good to know. Good to know. I was trying to double check. I don't know if the notification went out. Let me see if it did. Oh, it did not. That's why. I tried to put the notification thing on. So, I don't know. We'll see if I can get it loaded in quick. But, anyway, so, yeah, just playing a little, what do they call this? Player versus, what is it called again? Player versus environment? Something like that. Ooh, 3 nades. Okay, so yeah, anyway, talking about the season today and just kind of the wrap-up. Phoenix was this afternoon. Overall, I think everybody kind of has the same reaction, which was a little underwhelming, after the kind of insanity that Martinsville brought and the, kind of the highest of highs in terms of just adrenaline rush and the craziness, then to just get thrown back into kind of a, what in the world was that sort of thing? That's I think the problem that we're going to have is that, unfortunately, it's kind of like it was overhyped. You overhype it, and it just ends up being utterly mediocre. So, as I said, it wasn't a bad race by Phoenix standards, but Phoenix standards are not high. They're low. So, that's not exactly a good thing. And, I don't know. I guess this far in, to know that, the last, frankly, 3 years have been underwhelming at best. I mean, let's be honest, last year, I was glad Kyle Larson won, but it really wasn't an overly, insane race. It's not like the racing was good where there's guys really racing each other all the time. And you can have a race that ends where they're not all on top of each other and it still be a good race. There's limits to what makes good racing, and it's not always just chaos. A lot of times there's other elements that really help make it good. But definitely the biggest problem for NASCAR right now is the short track package isn't good, and it's on full display with only 4 guys going for it, and that's not a good late option. Alright, get that one out of the way. But overall, I think my reaction to the weekend is just mediocre. It's mediocre would be the best reaction to that. Because after the end of the round, or the end of the season, I'm kind of like, well, I watched all year, and we had some good racing all season long. But it was a little underwhelming. It's like when the season comes to an end and it's all just kind of a very, that's what came to, it didn't feel like a big event, to be completely honest. There's nothing that makes me say, oh yeah, no, that was it. That was the grand finale. Like, it was just another race. And I don't know. Like I said, I've never been a fan of the format. That's not new. But I don't know. You add a few of these things on top, and I just think it really hurts the kind of, I don't know what the word is. The prestige. I will use the word prestige. It doesn't help the prestige of the sport. When at the end of the IndyCar season, Will Power got the title. And I watched that. And it was like, yeah, that makes sense. I watched the season. Will Power was the better car that year. And, it makes sense why he got it. Behind that there. So, better watch out for that. I just got wrecked by a jackal. But, yeah, overall, I think my reaction to the NASCAR scene is just kind of a, I don't know. The season's over, and I definitely am not super excited for next season, which is a problem. Going through last year, I was kind of excited to get to the next season. I was like, oh, we got a new car, we have some new things to look forward to, new venues. But this year moving forward, I don't feel, not even a great deal, I don't feel hardly any excitement moving forward. I think that when you overhype an event and it comes down to kind of just a dud, it wasn't all that great of a race. I think that that's not helpful for the long-term health of the sport, but also, when you overpromise and underdeliver, people are going to take note of that. People are going to know that, hey, wait a minute, we were promised a crazy race, and what did we get? Snap, we got a lot of people to go help yet. Give me some of that. That's a big old... wait, did he just live? Okay, he did. Good job, Joey. Hoped Ross could win, but didn't have enough time. You know, at the end of the day, it was fine for a Phoenix race. It really was. I think Ross had a good car today. I don't think it was the best.
2 minutes remain.
And I think at the end of the day, Joey had the best car and he won the race, as he should. You know, I want the best car to win the race. I think that's kind of, you know, if they execute as well as he did. He executed the best, and he should win the race because of such. But, you know, I think the overall view of what today was the race is overshadowed by, of course, the implications to the championship. Oh, he's done. Oh, he fell down. So yeah, I think it was,
Round complete.
I don't know. It's hard to say. It really is. I don't know how to put it in words the right way, I guess. But, you know, after yesterday, and then, of course, the letdown, I don't want to say letdown, but the hard news of what happened for Gibbs, and it's like, it was just, what a downer note for the season to end on, you know? Like,
Final round.
don't get me wrong. If you're a Logano fan, you're thrilled, and rightfully so. You know, he had a great season. All right. Be on again soon. Yeah, no worries. What's going on here? I can't even keep up. Holy cow, that tank is absolutely slaying.
Incoming Promethean threat. Mythic boss targets detected.
I'll get in there and get some hits. Anyway, so I was gonna get through this round, and then I'm actually working on some website stuff, but I wanted to get something to go in the background here. A little loud, but let's see here. Oh yeah, there's Florida Advance. So yeah, ooh, let's pick that up. Did we already take care of one of them? We did. Last one. All right. Taken down. That's the end of the round. What was I in the middle of? I was trying to send something. There we go. I was trying to send a PayPal invoice, but I need to get logged in. I need to turn the sound off so I can hear. But yeah, moving forward, I think into next year, you're going to see a few less diecast reviews from me. I'll still have the website. Things are still going to roll that way, but just definitely going to see. I'm going to be watching different things, I guess, going into next year. I may still stream the races. We'll see if the interest peaks up as the course of the year goes on. But I don't know. Like, I've been to the Knoxville Nationals, I've been to NASCAR races, I've been to these things, and I'm telling you, like, there's a different mentality that NASCAR has behind their sport, and it's not the same thing as, you know, racing. It's not the same as the others, and there's something there that I don't want to leave every season going, well, glad I watched all season for the end result not to make any difference, you know, like, it's like watching a football season, and at the end of the season, they flip a quarter. And if it lands the wrong way, the best team all year will be eliminated from the playoffs. It's like, wait, what? That seems kind of silly. That's pretty much NASCAR. You know, NASCAR's racing in general is luck. There's a lot of luck involved in racing, and that's okay. That's why you spread your championship battle over 36 races. But to have it come down to one event, I mean, Christopher Bell, who knows what was wrong with his engine? But if his car blows up, what did Christopher Bell do wrong? You know? Is that really how we want that stuff to happen? it just seems like it presents the opportunity for utter idiocracy in a championship event. You know, when you have these weird, NASCAR is luck. I'm sorry, that's how to put it. There is a lot of luck involved in NASCAR, and in all forms of racing. So what you can do to minimize the luck versus skill, to make sure that you balance out and still have a deserving and high-end champion, is you spread it out over a multitude of events. And unfortunately, when you shrink it down into 3 race rounds, you don't really get to see what you really should. So, I don't know. I'm a little bummed. I think the race was okay. I honestly, for Phoenix race, it was fine. Joey Logano had a great race. But I think for a season, to watch the whole season, and, this is the first time I've ever had, not just one, but I've had 2 drivers. I had 2 drivers in this weekend's events. I had Noah Gragson and Chase Elliott that I was really rooting for hard because I thought they had at least the best, if not second best seasons between the 2 of them. I think Gregson and Allmendinger would have come down to the wire between the 2 of them. And I think Elliott would have had the race locked up with 1 to go. And to have watched all season, Noah has the most wins, Elliott has the most wins. They're both having fantastic seasons. And to be able to ride that wave of like, wow, these guys are really performing well. Like, it's a really fun season when your guys are doing so well. And then to come through the championship weekend and neither of them has anything to show for their season. He's got 8 wins, he's got 5 wins, but at the end of the day, when they go to the Hall of Fame, they talk about championships. And after such a great season, for it all to mean nothing, I think I don't know, it feels empty. And I think that's the part that drives me nuts. Like I said, I saw this in 2020. I saw when Kevin Harvick got knocked out and Chase Elliott ended up winning the championship, I felt, I don't know what the word is, I felt lucky. Like, well, I guess we didn't, my driver didn't earn it, but he got one, so I guess it's something. It's kind of like when you sneak away with a win that you didn't earn. You caught a caution at the right time. It's like, well, I'm going to celebrate it, but boy, that's not something I, get to see a lot. And to have that in 2020 was fine, but it was one of those, it felt a little hollow. And then going this year, I thought, well, wow, this year feels like it's going to be real. Like, I get to, one of them I thought was at least going to get a shot at it. And, it was going to be like, yeah, well, they were the best all year. They had the best. Like, it's kind of a very proud of the guy I root for, because he was the champion. He was the number 1 guy. And to have that happen in neither series of the top 2. Now, in the trucks, it did. So I'm happy for Zane Smith. But in general, for it not to work out in either series, and the fact that I believe now 6 of the 9, I think it's 9. Yeah, 6 of the 9 championship, playoff seasons, whatever. 6 of 9 times the regular season champion has not won the playoff. So if you're 3 for 9 in terms of being able to, quote-unquote, crown the most deserving champion, and you're only 3 of 9, like, you're not even 50%. You're not even 40%. You're shooting around, 30-some%. I don't know. To me, that seems kind of empty. You're not even 30% of the time. Sorry, not even 40%. I guess a little over 30, but not even 40% of the time does the regular season champion win the title. That's just not a good system to me. It's not. People are saying that Chase getting spun was Chase's fault. I mean, it's a racing incident. Like I said, it was a racing incident. Both guys went for the same piece of real estate. Happens in racing all the time. It's not new. Incidents have gotten like that forever. The only small gripe I had was with Chastain. When they made contact, he made no effort to try and not spin him out. When you see that, say, next year at Gateway, when somebody comes down and makes contact like that, you're going to see the car behind kind of lift and get off him to try and let him save the car, not drive through him and hook and go to the, basically finish him off. So that's something that, like I said, it's a small little thing. It's not like I'm saying he intentionally wrecked him, intentionally spun him. That gut reaction to not back off once you've hit someone is not normally a cup caliber thing, because guys have to take care of each other. They're long races. Nobody generally wants to just run through the guy in front of them. So, as I said, it's a racing incident. There's just, as I said, it's a tiny little piece of it where I'm like, I don't really care for that part of it. But The contact itself, nobody was at fault. That was just two guys literally moving left at the same time. They both got to start-finish line and hooked left to try and take the little shortcut. And the problem is, when they hooked left, Chastain got the left rear Elliott. And he had a choice to either let off and maybe let him save it or to spin him around. And he chose to spin him around. And I don't think it changes anything. Logano was the best car all day. He had the best pit stall. He had everything. And, that's unfortunate. I shouldn't say it's what wins you a championship now. Get to the Final Four and then have the best car there. Because if you're the best on super speedways or intermediates or road course, doesn't matter. You have to be the best at Phoenix or you will not win. And that's where I have my problem, is that you have to be the best at one specific track to win. AJ Allmendinger can have the best season ever, running great on road courses and super speedways and intermediates and short tracks. But if he's not great at Phoenix next year, he ain't winning a championship, no matter how well he does. So, yeah. Way too early in the Final Four, Ross. Final Four for next year. Elliott, Ross, Allmendinger, and Blaney. Keep your eye out for that 48. I wouldn't be shocked if we see something like that. Only 3 regular season champions also won the championship. Yeah, only 3 times has it happened. That's not good. No matter what you think of today or the racing or any of that, only 3 times did the driver, quote unquote, the way we're going to say it, most deserving, win the championship. That's not good. And frankly, we got lucky because in 2017, Kyle Busch was coming for Truex. That one couldn't have happened. I mean, hell, the caution came out the wrong time last year. Larson couldn't have happened. There were things that changed some of those outcomes, and it could be even worse. We could be on a streak where the regular season champion never wins the final race. And frankly, I'll make the argument right now. I will make the argument right now. The regular season champion has never been the fastest car in the championship race. And I'm going to point the 3 out. 2017, Kyle Busch was coming for Truex. He was the better car. 2019, Hamlin and Truex were both faster, both made pit road miscues. One put the wrong tires on the wrong side, the other put a giant piece of tape that overheated. So those two were both faster than Kyle Busch, yet the execution was better. Kyle Busch wins. 2021, by the end of that race, I'm sorry, Martin Truex was the better car. Pit stops happen. Kyle Larson ends up out front and is able to hold on for the win. So you can make the argument that the regular season champion has never had the fastest car in the final race, but they have always been fast in the final race. And that's a problem for me, because that means more often than not, the guy that should win the title won't. And that's not how the Super Bowl works. The team that should win the Super Bowl, more often than not, does win. The better team going in. We go into last year, and it's like, who won the Super Bowl between the Rams and the Bengals? Well, the Rams. The Bengals had a horrible offensive line all year. And so the Rams ended up with a Super Bowl. You go back a year before that, the Bucs and the Chiefs. Both were good teams. But by the end of it, you could see, Bucs were the better team. And you know what? That's okay. There is something wrong when the fans and drivers, by the way, the drivers of the sport know this. And when they can say, well, it's not always going to crown the best of the year. It's just going to crown somebody. That's not... You should never look at a championship trophy and go, well, it takes so much luck to get those that you can't really count them towards Hall of Fame. I'm sorry, what? You can't count the greatest achievement of the sport? Well, no, it's not the greatest achievement in the sport anymore. That's the problem. It's no longer the best achievement within the sport. That's a big, big issue. The season, I feel, it ended on a low point. The playoffs were kind of boring, not really interesting, for sure. We had such a good regular season. We had such a good group of races going. I personally witnessed Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, and Kurt Busch win this year. It was such a fun year. I got to see some drivers win that I hadn't seen win before. We had some entertaining races all the way around. Kyle Larson finally got that Homestead win. There was a lot of things that felt really good. But for the whole quote-unquote grand finale to come to, really? That's not good. You don't want to end your season that way. IndyCar has never had that feel. Even when a guy has the championship locked up, you say, it was a decent race. Guy got, he finished the race and earned his title, and everyone says, he earned it. We don't have any questions. in NASCAR is the only sport I see where people have to argue of if it was an earned championship or not. And I know they always like to say, well, the rules are what they are. Well, they're just saying that because they're not allowed to say the truth, which is, yeah, it's kind of a stupid format. The drivers know this. The only reason they say they knew the rules at the beginning of the season is so that way they don't have to admit it's a bad format. So, Race of the Year, Coke 600. Yeah, that was a pretty good one. I don't know. Here's my thing. The Coke 600 I thought ended gimmickly. I understand it was crazy. It was chaotic. But my problem with the Coke 600 was Chase Briscoe just sent it in there so hard on Larson and wrecked himself, and then caused a caution that wrecked a bunch of other cars. Like, that was a race that didn't need that yellow. That yellow was kind of just silly, and by the time that was all said and done, you just ended up with a bunch of wrecked race cars. And I don't know. Like, I remember it, but it's not my most memorable race of the season, honestly. One of my most memorable races of the season was it was the spring Richmond race. The spring Richmond race where Kevin Harvick pitted mid-stage, came all the way back from a lap down. Oh, sorry, Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin, both of them, came back from an entire lap down and passed the leaders on pit strategy with 10 to go. Truex, Byron were battling, and that's all TV would focus on. Oh, it's these two. And all of a sudden, with 5 to go, Denny Hamlin's here with fresh tires, and he blew by both of them and won the race. I remember that race. I remember thinking, wow, look at that strategy. Like, that was good. That was a good, solid race. And yet, at the end of the season, you're sitting there like, that's it? We didn't even have strategy. By then, we had a silly caution that came out. Not silly. It was, warranted, but it was just like, we had a caution. It was like, oh, well, guess there's no strategy involved. None of this, none of that, none of that. Like, you feel empty. It doesn't feel authentic. And maybe that's just me. Because I've seen racing for, what is this now? Almost 20 years? Almost 20 full seasons I've watched. And this is the most hollow a season has ever felt at the end of it. Not because of the racing quality on track, but due to all the stuff involved. All the gimmicks. I mean, the playoff system has been flawed forever. But the one thing it works well or works okay with is the Gen 6 car. If you were the best in the Gen 6 car, you were usually the best everywhere. You're the best at about every track you went to. And you know what? If that's how you crown a champion, it was closer to okay. Still not good. Well, now, there's a different person that's fastest every week you show up. Well, that's a good thing. That's really entertaining. That's fun. Oh, wait a minute. Now we're going to crown our champion in one race? Ooh, but there's different people fast every week. That's, oh boy. That's not a good thing. So, yeah, I do feel like the SpongeBob movie, just like, that's it? That's the whole season? Wow. Like, it just started on such a high note and came down to such a low note. I shouldn't say low. It came down to such a bleh, whatever. And I think the sport is missing a very, very important part. Look at Formula One. At the end of last season, all the fans can look back and say, remember all the battles between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Do you remember watching them battle all season? I remember watching. I'm not even a Formula One fan, yet I tuned into a few different races and watched those two battle it out hard for that title. And it was very memorable, and I'm not even a fan. Yet, you can have these races like today where, they kind of cycle back. No, I don't remember a thing. I don't even remember last year's Phoenix race. I just remember one thing with the pit stops, and outside of that, I don't remember it. It's not memorable. They're going for Game 7 moments, but they don't. NASCAR has this problem. They say, we want our Game 7 moment. NASCAR has completely failed to understand that why a Game 7 is so fun, so memorable, and so important is because it took 6 games to get there. There are 6 games that were played, and they were so neck and neck, back and forth, different things happening, that it ended up having to be settled in a Game 7. In NASCAR, when you say, we're going to reset the score, first guy wins, that's not Game 7. That's not what that is. That's Game 1. Okay? That's literally the first time they battled it out. You don't have a Game 7 moment when you don't have 7 games. And NASCAR's trying to do it all in one race. Like, I'm sorry, but that is something they have got to figure out. The ratings this year have gone down, 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 down on the playoffs. They went down every year. Every single year since they started this format, the ratings go down. Lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. Every single year. And I hate the excuse, well, the NFL. Well, the NFL. Guess what? You competed with them before, and you didn't have this problem. Your ratings didn't drop off in 2003, 2002, 2001, 2004. It didn't drop. But once they started this new playoff-style format, it drops lower and lower and lower. And they want to sit there and say, oh, it's NFL. That's a cheap excuse. I'm sorry, it is. Any racing series you recommend to watch during the off-season? Well, I don't know much that actually races during the off-season. But going into next year, I highly recommend watching the World of Outlaws sprint cars. Also, watching some of the late model stuff. They put on pretty solid racing as well. IndyCar, honestly, puts on a really good show in terms of the championship battle and the racing. I think there are some tracks that are really bad for IndyCar, but that being said, Iowa is fantastic for IndyCar. The racing there is terrific. I would say we can look at Formula One. They still got a month left, even though the championship's all wrapped up. Let's see. Joey Logano likes winning inaugural things. He wins Gateway, the Clash, first dirt race. Yeah, no, he won a ton of inaugural things. Definitely did. And he was the second best all year, for sure. I mean, he really was. Like I said, it's not like Joey Logano had a bad season and lucked into it. Like, Joey Logano had a great season. I mean, second best is a great season. It really is. There's no shame in saying, hey, I was the second best this year. That's fine. But I think where it's annoying is when your guy was the best and walked away empty-handed. And not just empty-handed, but it's happened now twice. I said Noah Gragson had he and Justin Allgaier were not Allgaier. Gosh, I always mix those two up. He and AJ Allmendinger coming down those last 10 races would have been battling it out within 10 points of each other. It would have been spectacular, absolutely spectacular. And instead, AJ Allmendinger's not even in it. He's not even in the hunt. It's just disappointing to have potential battles. I mean, people think, obviously, like, the championship for Cup would have been wrapped up by now. However, 2nd through 5th were all within one race of each other. And that would have been a storyline. And just touching on it touches on every driver throughout the race. Did you guys know, and I'm going to throw this out there, Kevin Harvick scored a 5th place finish. He just broke a record for most consecutive top 10s at one racetrack. Kevin Harvick broke a massive record. That is 19 races. Do you guys understand? That is a decade of racing. That is 10 years of racing at one track and getting top 10s every time you go there. And I don't know if the broadcast even touched on it once in terms of that he got it. Not a single time did they touch on it. There are things that we as fans are missing out on because they're hyper-focused on this quote-unquote Game 7 moment that's just simply not a Game 7 moment. It's not. They call it a championship battle because they battle all season long, and the winner wins the war. Instead, what we have is more like a boxing match. One single match that just was randomly chosen. It's not the same. And I don't know. It's just not great. Anyone want a Chase Elliott 2021 Darlington color chrome on here? I'm selling one. Oh, well, that's a cool car. It's a 2021, actually. What's on that? Oh, that's the Hooters. Yeah, that's a good-looking car. Let's see here. If Chase didn't crash, Logano probably would have battled it out. I mean, probably. I think Logano was still the better car all day. But that being said, it's, that battle still doesn't feel... I don't know what the word I want to use is. I don't want to say real, because it's a good battle. But it doesn't feel like the battle for a championship. It seems like the battle for a win. And a battle for a win is good. There's nothing wrong with a battle for the win. Those are solid. It's not the same level. That the reason that 2011 was so spectacular to so many people was because in 2011, Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards were literally separated by like 10 points for the final 5 races. And they were both winning or finishing 2nd or 3rd or 4th. But the two of them were just top 5, top 5, top 5, top 5, top 5 every single race. Every single race they were knocking out top 5s. And that was impressive. That's hard to do. And then when it came down to that final event and their 1-2 coming to that line and the winner got the championship, that's an incredible battle. But that battle did not start at Homestead. That battle started back at Chicago or New Hampshire. I can't remember. I think it was New Hampshire at the time. But it started 10 races earlier. That's where the battle started. The battle didn't start in one race. It started way back 10 races earlier. It just came to that epic conclusion. You know, this is like the NFL changing their 2-minute rules. And every time you get to the fourth quarter, we reset the scores at the 2-minute mark. And so all of a sudden, every game's going to end with a drive for the win inside of 2 minutes. Doesn't that sound great? No, it doesn't. Because a game-winning drive inside of 2 minutes has to be set up by the story before it. It can't just be set up unnaturally, which is what NASCAR does. You have to let the build create the moment. Otherwise, the moment feels forced. And guess what happens when you force something to happen? It's garbage. Nobody actually buys it and says, oh, yeah. Because guess what? When every single game ends with a 2-minute drive for a touchdown, because that's how they've manipulated the rules, none of those 2-minute drives are special anymore. They're not. Just like a last lap pass for the win. They were really rare. They were a rare thing. Like a last lap pass for the win, those are rare. Green-white checkers, those were kind of rare. Now, green-white checker rate is up to like 40%. They aren't special anymore. Green-white checker finishes are not a special thing. They're just normal now. And doesn't it feels different. It truly does. I remember when I went to a truck race and saw the first green-white checker I had ever seen. I said, wow, I get to see one of these? I'm lucky. I get to see a green-white checker finish. And by literally last year, I think I was like, again? Because it was another green-white checker. And they had the stat at the time. It was like, of the 15 races of the season to that point, 8 of them had been green-white checkers. And I'm just kind of like, really? That's not something I'm happy with. That's not a good thing to me. I'm guessing the pool room was empty and after Elliott crashed. Probably. Cup Race at Phoenix felt very hollow. Definitely. I would agree. I think hollow is a good word. Now, that doesn't mean the racing on track was terrible. It wasn't great. But it's meh. It was okay racing. But I can live with okay racing. You know, I can have a race where it's like, it wasn't a great race, but I watched it. And, the storylines of the race played out, and it was a race. I watch racing. That's what I like to do. But for that to be the story of the entire season wrapped up into one race that's mediocre, makes the whole season feel mediocre. And it wasn't. It was a great racing season. It really was. And the whole season feels mediocre just because the last race was mediocre. But that's what NASCAR does. They create this thing where the whole season comes down to one race. And if that one race isn't good, the whole season's not good. And that's not fair to the season. The whole season wasn't that bad. But NASCAR made this situation. Let's see here. I'm also selling Ross Chastain 2020 Plan B sales. Oh, that's a good looking truck too. Let's see. I agree with Ross. When someone pulls in front of you, stay in the gas. I mean, you're going to wreck a lot of people that way, and he has done that. So, I don't know. My whole thing has always been like, again, if it was with 2 to go or 3 to go, I get it. But it was 100 and some laps to go. Like, come on, dude. That, again, it's the same thing. You see it at restrictor plate tracks. I shouldn't say you do. You used to see it at the super speedways. When someone got a little out of shape, everyone kind of backed up a little bit to help, hope that they saved it. Now, when someone gets out of shape, they just ram into the back of them and spin them up in front of the field. Like, look at Noah at Daytona this year. He pulls down to AJ. AJ hits him and gets him started to go sideways. Well, guess what? Does AJ lift? No. He just keeps on rolling. Once that car hooks to the right, it's like, well, he's gone. It's like, well, it used to be once you saw him start hooking, you backed off and, gave everybody a shot to save their race cars. Now they just tear them up. I mean, it's just what it is, I guess. Michael McDowell had a cup low of 2 DNFs and ran the most laps of anyone this year. Well done for Michael McDowell. He had a great season. I really was disappointed when Blake Harris said he was leaving, but I don't, he had a great year. Michael McDowell had a really great year. He did. Let's see. Really happy for Ford. It's their first multi-time champion since David Pearson. Yeah, Ford is... And here's the thing you got to realize about Ford. Kevin Harvick, Eric Almirola, probably going to be retiring somewhat soon. Logano's got plenty of time, so you don't have to worry there. But they don't really have a pipeline. Like, their only Xfinity guys right now are Riley Herbst and Ryan Sieg, and probably Haley Deegan. Like, they have no pipeline of talent. They have Ryan Preece still in there somewhere, but like when Brett Moffitt ran the 07, I'm like, oh man, I hope Ford jumps on that opportunity. Finally have a driver that can actually drive a Stewart-Haas car, because I guarantee you he'd be a championship contender if he ran Stewart-Haas. But it was a one-time deal, unfortunately. Noe made a crazy move. I mean, I like Noah because he tries to race clean, but sometimes makes mistakes. My whole thing about Logano goes back to Darlington, and it's not just Darlington. He's done it a multitude of places, but when you intentionally run someone over and wreck them when they've done nothing to you, I have a problem with that. I'm not a fan of that, and that stems all the way back to, you know, Matt Kenseth at Kansas, you know, Kyle Busch at Las Vegas. I mean, that Kyle Busch one was just flat out uncalled for. You know, I know a lot of people saw that incident and said, oh, that's just a hard racing thing. No. Hard racing is he takes the top, I take the bottom, we race hard coming out of the corner. He hit the bottom and was not going to beat Kyle Busch. So he throttled up, went up the racetrack, spun Kyle Busch out, and just ruined his race. For what? I mean, those are the types of things that just irk me. I don't like people who just say, screw that guy, and spin them out for no reason. No reason at all. You just say, I'm ending that guy's race. I'm just not a fan of that. Because if you've ever raced before, you know how much it sucks to race and run a good, clean race and compete it with someone, and then on the last second they just take advantage of you and end your day, and you have nothing to show for it. You know, it's like a competition where you're building something. You're building, and looks like that guy's going to build it faster than you, and you're going to come in second. So you knock their building down, and now they finish dead last with nothing. You know, that's why I've never been able to like Logano, is because it's not the hard racing. It's not the hard blocking. It's not those things. It's the just full-blown taking advantage of other people with the full-blown expectation that if someone ever does it back, he's just going to wreck them twice as hard. You know, that to me is silly, but again, most people don't have the backbone to do anything. You know, at the end of the day, you know, Joey Logano destroyed William Byron's car at Darlington. What did William Byron do about it? Nothing. I mean, he literally did nothing. Didn't do a thing. So, you know, it's the same thing that we've kind of been frustrated with Ty Gibbs at times. He just runs into people, ruins their race, and they don't do anything about it. And that's kind of on the competition at that point. But it's a racing style I've never grown accustomed to at this point. Let's see. Don't forget about Logano dive bombed in turn 1 at Indy Roval. But everyone was doing that. It's still not good, but it's, you know, is what it is. Won't be surprised if Jimmy runs top 10 in the select races he picks. I'd be a little surprised just because of the lack of experience. Who is worse, Logano or Chastain? Probably Logano. Because I don't get me wrong, I don't think either. I think Chastain is so new to this, he doesn't realize you can give and take a little. Like he went through the the Truck Series, and the Truck Series I'm referring to is 2019 when people were just ramming into each other. I kid you not, the way Chastain has raced because of how people raced around him was literally running into people is normal. It's not just like not frowned upon. It's literally normal to just run into the side of someone, and so he's got more years to learn. Joey at this point is Joey. He's not changing. So I would say he's worse, but not worse in terms of driving talent. I just mean worse in terms of like the type of racing that I'm not a fan of. I mean, it definitely pays more to win, but the problem is, here's the thing. In a playoff format, Joey Logano would probably not win a lot of championships because when you wreck somebody and take them out of a race, you ruin their day. And I guarantee you, on the old school, you know, the old school drivers are going to ruin your day later on. They never let you get away with it. In the playoff format, oh, you ruined my day in the regular season. Whoop-de-doo. You know, no big deal, right? Well, that's because nobody's ever going to retaliate. You know, the only time you see retaliation anymore is when somebody does something to someone in the playoffs. If it happens in the regular season, they're just, I'll just move on. You know, somebody, I accidentally dumped you at Bristol. Whoop-de-doo. Who cares? I mean, good grief. Chase Briscoe wrecked Tyler Reddick on the last lap. Just horrible slide job. And wrecked him. Tyler Reddick, oh, well, I'm in the playoffs. You know, that race is irrelevant to me now. Seems kind of silly to me. Jeff, when did people run over him? Let's see. Can you blame Joey? People used to run through him all the time. Yes and no. Here's the thing. When people used to run through the back of Joey, it was because he had done something that was not considered normal. And Tony Stewart talks about this. I've heard an interview of his where he said, as a rookie, you would get spun around and you'd be like trying to get your car to refire and get back caught up. And when you were trying to refire your car, you had time to think like, okay, why did I get spun around? And then your spotter usually would say, well, it looks like you kind of chopped him, and so he didn't appreciate that and spun you. You know, because at that time, you would sometimes let it go if it was a veteran. But rookies, when they would come in and just start chopping veterans' noses, oh, they'd spin them right away. They'd just spin them out. Say, nope, you're not. That's not how we race here. And with Joey, it was a lot of that. It was things like pulling aggressive sliders and sliding right up off the nose of somebody else. Well, guess what that happened then? When people stopped lifting and just said, you know what, you're going to learn your lesson today. And they'd spin him. And, you know, that's what happened to him like in 2013 with Denny Hamlin at Bristol. You know, it wasn't that Denny Hamlin spun him. He definitely did. Denny Hamlin just bumped him and spun him. The reason was because coming onto the straightaway, he chopped Denny's nose off and Denny had to lift. And Denny said, that's not how we race. And so he bumped and spun him into the other corner. So it was a racing etiquette thing. Joey Logano really did change a lot of the culture of racing etiquette because he showed you can not give a crap about everyone else and still win. And the only way you can win is if people let you win. Because it's not normal that they would let you win. They would make sure, oh, you're not winning this race. Like, now, guys are just, they don't do anything about it. So you may as well. Yeah, Ross, I mean, like I said, Ross runs everybody over too. But look at Xfinity. He ran I screwed these two up again. He ran over Justin Allgaier at Watkins Glen. Well, Justin Allgaier ended his race. He sent him up into the tire barrier. Was it intentional? No, it wasn't intentional. But what the message he was sending was, hey, you don't just run people over and ruin their races. No, you don't do that. Like, you want to get raced that way? No, it's not fun. Don't do that. And I think from then on out, the rest of the season, Ross and Justin got along fine. So like I said, that's a racing etiquette thing. That's not that mad or different. Would I be mad if Elliott takes out Chastain next year? I don't want Elliott to take anyone out. I don't want people to intentionally take someone out. But I do think there's other ways to do it tactfully, you know. I thought the way Denny Hamlin got his quote-unquote payback at Pocono was fantastic. He didn't wreck Ross Chastain. He just basically told Ross Chastain, who was on the outside of him, that, look, I'm coming up off this corner. If you don't lift, you're going to spin yourself out. And Ross didn't lift, so he ended up in the fence. And it's like, he gave him the option, and he ended up wrecking himself. Now, to be fair, Denny Hamlin had that happen to him. 2017, he completely sent Elliott into Martinsville's corner and wrecked him. Phoenix, Elliott said, I'm coming up. Denny Hamlin was there. And Denny said instead of lifting, he stayed in it. Pow, into the fence he goes. Probably cost him a shot at 2017. But that's a tactful way of getting revenge, which is, I didn't wreck you, you ran out of room. You know, the untactful way is kind of the Matt Kenseth way, where you plow him into the wall, or you dump him in the middle of a straightaway, or you just full-blown fence him. Like, that's Busch League. There's tactful ways to get your revenge in the Cup Series. Okay, when Elliott hit the wall today, I didn't last year because I knew Elliott didn't deserve it and he didn't have the best car at Phoenix. I knew he deserved it this year. Yeah, I'd agree there. I would say it was definitely tougher this year than last year because last year he even had a better car. I think he had one of the better cars last year compared to this year. But this is the season that I think he deserved it. And that's, I think, where it hurts is where it's like, dang. My guy was the best all year and has nothing to show for it, and I have to sit here and listen to everyone talk about how he was fourth best. Even though I know darn well when I watched these races the whole season, he wasn't the fourth best driver. But yet, when the results come through, he was fourth best. And I just, it's not, it's like coming to the Super Bowl and finishing runner-up. It's like, you may not have been the second best team all year, but you were at least in it because you beat everybody else on your side. You know, you beat everyone else. Maybe not beat them, but you won the tournament the way it's designed. But the way that racing works, it's just not the same thing. You know, you race at a different track every week. If we went to Charlotte Roval next week for the championship race, everyone would be crying their eyes out. We can't race the championship race at a road course. Well, why are we racing it at Phoenix? We only run short flat tracks 3-4 times a year. We run road courses 6-7 times a year. We race at road courses more often than Phoenix-style racetracks. Yet, if we went to a road course, everyone would bawl their eyes out. To be fair, I don't think a championship race should be at a road course either. That being said, I do think that that explains the flaw in this entire system. Yet again, drivers talk about how they might get payback, and it's easier said than done. It definitely is easier said than done, but that being said, the biggest thing is you have to follow through on it. And there are certain drivers that have always been very good about that. They would follow through and be like, hey, I told you that was going to happen. And, you know, after that, if they chose to race respectfully, they would get along just fine, you know. But there's also times, you know, I imagine that I imagine there are times where drivers just never do end up getting along. But eventually they have to learn to race around each other if they're always there. Should be Bristol night for the Final Four? No. No. Do you know how ugly that race would be if you had to, be very cautious around the championship drivers? Oh, that would be awful. No. Bristol is actually better out of the playoffs, because when it's out of the playoffs, everybody races everybody. You don't have to do this stupid thing where it's, oh, that's a playoff guy, you have to let him go. You can't race him hard. That's dumb. When I watched the Bristol night race, 2019 was the last good one. I shouldn't say good one. There were a lot of good ones, but 2019 was a great Bristol night race because everybody racing that night was racing for themselves. There was no points, everyone was there to race, and I mean, they raced hard. It was, front to back of that field was racing hard, and it was so much fun. And I'm telling you, once the playoffs started, I can see it from the stands. I can see it's like, oh, that's a playoff guy, so he just let him go. It's like, well, why? He should be able to race still, right? I remember hating Busch after he wrecked Junior at Richmond, slammed my door and went to bed. I was 8. Oh, I remember getting real mad at Kyle Busch a few times he wrecked my driver. I do think Kyle Busch has gotten a lot better, though. I think every time Kyle Busch made a mistake, and wrecked a driver, I can at least say I think almost all of them have been accidents. -2. Which was better? Final Four track? Which one was a better Final Four track? Homestead or Phoenix? Neither. I think, unfortunately, it's the rose-colored glasses effect. Everyone looks at it like with rose-colored glasses. Oh, remember how great Homestead was? It's like, do you? Like, do you remember 2019? Do you remember 2017? 2018? Do you remember those kind of snoozers where it was the only thing people remember is, oh, 2 guys were battling for the lead at the end? But outside of that, Homestead really is just a good, solid racetrack. And, there's a lot of tracks that could put on a great race, but the question is, will they put on a great race? I don't know. 2018 was boring, and I like Logano. Oh, definitely. I mean, like I said, I think 2018 was one of the worst races I've ever watched at Homestead. Like, I don't know. The whole way that race ended was just kind of like, really? Just like, sometimes you don't win the race because you have a long run car versus a short run car, and a caution comes out. That's normal. But for that to be the deciding factor in a championship, to me, was just like a, really? And it's very similar to today, but not quite the same. It's totally different in a couple senses. But I remember thinking that day, like, really? Like, it was clearly going to be between Busch and Truex, and then because Joey had the better short run car, he ends up winning a title for it. Like, oh, that seems dumb, But that being said, Joey could have won 2015. So yeah, it's just, whatever. Once Atlanta surface wears out, it could put on a good show as the finale. Like I said, I think any race can be the finale. I really do. Any race could host the finale. That being said, not every race should host a championship race where it's only one race for the title. You could end the season anywhere you want. If you have a full season that leads up to it, nobody has to worry if the race is that good. Because the season was good, right? The season was good, so even if the last race was a kind of a dud, we had a good season, right? Well, not with this format. In this format, if your season finale is garbage, the whole season was garbage. Because that's all that matters, is one race. That's, again, NASCAR put themselves in this box. I don't feel bad for them. So yeah, like I said, that's I think the thing. Because like I said, what if the season ends at Talladega? I don't think anyone will care. Daytona? Who cares? You had all season. If you didn't have a big enough lead in points till you got to Daytona, well, should have had a better lead. That's something you can argue. Championship race, you can't argue that. You really can't. And that's, I think, where the biggest issues come in. If Matt Kenseth didn't crush Logano in 2015, he could have had 3 champions. Yeah, probably. But like I said, even that, I still look back to this day and look at that issue between Kenseth and Logano, and I said, you know what? I still don't mind it to this day. And the biggest reason why was Joey Logano had to learn his lesson the hard way. And he didn't learn all of it, but he learned enough. I mean, he learned at that point, hey, if you run somebody over and ruin their race or wreck them, call them the next week. Because at that point, he said, screw that guy, and he just said, I'm going to keep moving forward. And I still don't think Matt Kenseth was going to get that payback. Like, that payback happened after Brad Keselowski, Logano's teammate, wiped him out, which, by the way, Joey Logano laughed about on the radio, because Radioactive was total karma justice. Like, Matt Kenseth's just racing hard for the lead with those two guys. He's like, I'm just going to race hard. And Brad Keselowski just wipes him out. I think Brad made a mistake. I don't think it was intentional, but he wiped him out, trashed his car. And once that happens, Joey Logano's spotter is just laughing that there's a big wreck out back and the 20 was in it. And I'm like, sorry, I don't like that look. You wrecked a guy, and then he's not happy with you, so your teammate ends up wrecking him, and you're laughing? Like, that's not funny to me. That your company is consistently wrecking someone. That's not funny to me. That's something I think is like, golly, he's going to be mad. Like, you've now done it twice. And like I said, I don't think the second one was all Joey's fault. They were jacking around on the restarts to help each other, but that was not abnormal. But yeah, like I said, I, to this day, will not condemn Matt Kenseth's move. I'm not going to endorse it, but I'm not going to condemn it either, because I think Matt Kenseth was not the type of guy who typically did that kind of stuff. So you got to push Matt Kenseth way over the edge to get him that mad. And it's the same thing with a lot of guys. Like, there are some guys that lose their temper and do stupid stuff. There's other guys that I'm trying to remember who it was, but it was one of those, I think it was Larry Fitzgerald in the NFL, got in a fight with one of the cornerbacks. And then when that happened, everyone's like, what in the world did the corner do? Nobody asked about Larry Fitzgerald because they knew that's one of the most respected guys in the league. So if you got Larry Fitzgerald mad at you, you did something wrong. Like, that's the stand-up guy kind of thing. So, Logano is already better than Matt, going by stats. No, definitely. Like I said, Logano's got better stats than Matt Kenseth. He's won more races. He's had a better, more dominant career. That's I think he's better than Matt, but I think at that time, him and Matt were going to duel it out for that title. And he took away Matt Kenseth's opportunity. He took it away from him. And Matt took his away back. And neither of them had a shot at the title. Tony Stewart is kind of a hypocrite. Keeps talking about how some drivers are way too aggressive, but he was really aggressive in the 2000s. Yeah, but Tony Stewart's aggression level is nowhere near what we see today. I mean, Tony Stewart was aggressive and would make mistakes and nudge into people. 100% Stewart was hypocritical from that point. But that being said, what we see today is so different. Like, throwing major blocks on people, pushing them clear out of the groove kind of stuff. That was the kind of stuff that got you junked. Not just like spun, not just knocked out of the groove. That got you junked if you did stuff like that to people when he was racing. So, like I said, the racing etiquette went out the window a few years back, and it's as bad as it's ever been. I mean, we all agree that the Indy road course looked ugly. We did not like the road course when everyone just rammed into each other. Yet, that's what driver etiquette is now. People acting like Kenseth wasn't crazy in the mid-2010s. Remember 2014 Charlotte where he fought Keselowski? Yeah, but even that one, Keselowski drills him in the door coming to pit road. And like I said, Keselowski, that race, I thought he just went unhinged or something. Because I remember that race thinking, like, what in the world is he so mad about? Because he was after a bunch of different cars. He junked or ran into Hamlin, ran into Kenseth, and ran into Stewart. Like, he was just mad at or something, but he was all sorts of out of whack at that point. Yeah, that was the you hit me under yellow thing. But yeah, he, like I said, that was, he ended up getting his etiquette back together, though. Like I said, Keselowski learned to race, and he races pretty respectfully. He races hard, but he definitely races respectfully. Excited for Radioactive? I don't think it'll be that exciting. I think it'll be fairly normal. Yeah, like I said, Gordon is the same situation, though. Like, when people say, oh, there was a hole, so he went for it, there wasn't really a hole. Because when guys are too wide going into the corner and you door slam the guy up into the fourth lane, that's not a hole. You knocked someone out of the way. And, again, it cut Gordon's tire and ended his season. I mean, let's be honest. Outside of Texas, he finished second and second. He finished second twice and still didn't make the final round because of Texas. And, I totally understood Gordon being frustrated there. Because he's like, hey, I earned this position on the racetrack. I earned that spot to start up front. And somebody knocked me out of the way because they wanted to jump that spot in line. I've always thought if you earn that... I have no problem. I will say it again. I have no problem with single file restarts. I have no problem with it. You earned an advantage by being out front. I don't have a problem with that. You know, I think double file restarts create problems when people just pile into each other. And I would not be frustrated to see them go back to single file restarts. You know, lap cars on one side, because you know what? As the leader of the race, you earned an advantage, and I don't like it being taken away from you. Elliott had the superior strategy before he spun. He was ahead of the 22. I mean, he was, but I think that was all just due to a quick restart and a caution there. You know, at the end of the day, I think he should have chose the outside, but you can't really rejudge all those things. At the end of the day, it was just, like I said, it was just frustrating to have the race taken from you instead of the other way, you know? I feel Joey would have crashed Chase if it came down to it. I mean, he would have. I mean, let's be honest, guys. We all know Joey's going to crash anybody when he wants something. And that's why I don't care for it. I understand, oh, championship on the line, you going to crash your grandma? Frankly, I hate that question because at the end of the day, no. You know, I don't want to feel like I won something because I stole it by knocking someone else out of the race. Sorry, that's not a good feeling. You know, you want to feel like you beat them straight up. And Junior made a very good point of that yesterday. He said, hey, I want my guys to win it straight up. Now, I think he neutered his drivers too much by saying we're not going to touch Ty Gibbs. I thought that was dumb. You know, to beat him straight up means, yeah, you can rub him up in the gray. You can put him back in traffic for a little bit. I mean, that's fine. But instead, they gave more room to Ty today than they ever have. Or not today, yesterday. So I thought that part was a little dumb. I didn't care for it, I should say. But yeah, I don't think just like Ty Gibbs. Hey, you got to do whatever you can for a win, right? Well, he junked the leader. I don't think anybody respects that. You know, he won Martinsville. Does anyone respect that win? No. I don't even think his own team respects that win. So, like I said, there is a right and wrong way to do things. It's kind of like in the NFL. Here, I'll give you a perfect example. The opposing team is lining up for a game-winning field goal. What in the world? Get that ad off of here. But they're lining up for a game-winning field goal. You jump off sides, but because you've jumped off sides, they're going to throw the flag anyway, so you may as well finish the play. So you drill the kicker and throw him to the ground and give him a concussion, so he can't play. He's injured. Now you've just injured their kicker before the final field goal attempt, and they don't have anyone to kick it. So they bring in a backup, he kicks it and misses, you guys win the game. Do you really feel like you earned that win? Because you sort of cheated by hurting the other team. You kind of, you know, you didn't straight up beat them. You had to sort of bend the rules in your favor. A win's still a win. Yeah, everyone wants to say it, but I think there's a right and wrong way to do things. And I think it has to be, you know, I think it has to be taken that way. Let's see here. What do you mean by listen to Junior? Well, Junior, like I said, he said he wanted to win it straight up and didn't want him to mess with Ty yesterday. But I think that the reason I say that's bad is like when Ty came to pass Justin Allgaier didn't fight for everything he's worth. He sort of just gave him plenty of room and let him go by. It's like, I understand what Dale Jr. meant. He basically meant don't junk Ty Gibbs at the championship race. But that didn't mean like, hey, he's running on your outside. Crowd him. No, they didn't even crowd him. They gave him plenty of space. Like, that's what I mean is, you know, I bet Justin Allgaier, when he got passed for the lead, was wishing, wow, I wish I would have crowded him a couple times, just, you know, giving myself a chance to get caught up and stuff. But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, is when you tell someone don't touch that guy, they're going to be extra cautious. Don't ever make your drivers have to be extra cautious. You know, you can make them run aggressive and hard. You know, crowding guys, being on the edge, giving them very little room, that's fine. But, like I said, I understand it. Like, hey, don't junk him. But, unfortunately, the drivers ended up taking that more as a don't run him hard. Well, like I say, by not sending Gibbs, you don't have to dump him or crash him. But, like, when he was on the outside or inside, they didn't even crowd him. They gave him so much space. At no point did they really pinch him down or like I say, push him high or give him, you know, they really just gave him so much room. I want them to go back to the no playoffs, or if they want to keep the playoffs, go back to the OG chase. I'd prefer both over the current format, but I would love the full season and just leave it at that. With that analysis, they'd get a first down for roughing the kicker. No, they wouldn't. It's completely legal. And even if they did, so they get a first down. Doesn't matter. There's 3 seconds left on the clock. You still got to kick the field goal, but your guy's gone. You know, it was a 45-yarder, and now you add that 15-yarder. It's still a 30-yard field goal, but you don't have a kicker now. So it's the same issue. Like, don't get me wrong. Yes, the penalty still exists. But in NASCAR, there is no penalty. You can dump the guy in front of you, as what happened to Brandon Jones last week, and there's no punishment. Literally, no punishment. You can just junk your competitor and take the win from him, and nothing happens. And that's what I mean is where, you know, personally, I'm not a huge fan of the idea that they're going to, you know, police what moves are okay and what ones aren't. But I am perfectly okay with if you're the car behind and you junk the leader, I don't know. I don't know how you would word it and apply it correctly, but we all know what we saw. You know, when you see a car like 54 and what he did to the 19 by junking him, I say send them both to the back of the lead lap. Same thing with what Hamlin did to Elliott. Now, I don't think that's the same as what, you know, if somebody gets tight and runs in, but honestly, I'll say it like this. Alex Bowman to Denny Hamlin last year. Bowman slides up the hill, knocks into Hamlin, and spins him out. Both of you to the back. You know, Alex Bowman should not be rewarded for missing his line and wrecking someone. Why are you rewarded with the race lead? No, to the back you go. Now, if the drivers have to police it, they're going to have to wreck Alex Bowman. If NASCAR polices it, they'll say, nope, that was avoidable contact. You overstepped and wrecked someone. You both go to the tail of the lead lap. I don't think it needs to be a stupid, severe penalty, but I think you should not be rewarded for running your competition over. I don't think that's good for racing. You know, to just run the guy in front of you over and get their spot. I don't think you should be rewarded. You know, again, contact happens. There's incidental contact. That's part of racing. But there's a line between just full-blown missing your marks and wrecking the guy in front of you and, you know, what's called good rubbing racing. Oh, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Like I said, Logano fan, I get what you're saying with the kicker thing. But, yeah, like I said, it's a very similar kind of thing. Like, I think people feel better about it. You know, when you, like I said, IndyCar, I have no problems with this year. There were some real stinkers on that schedule, too, by the way. Like, there were some races that were just ugly and dumb. But I watched the whole IndyCar race season. For the most part, I missed a couple races, but I watched it, and by the end of the season, it was kind of an uneventful final race. But you know what? That's okay. I still left the season going, you know what? That was an okay IndyCar season. The NASCAR season was so much better than IndyCar, and yet I leave the season going, that's it? Wow. Why am I having a better feeling of IndyCar than NASCAR right now? I shouldn't have that. The racing was better all season from NASCAR, and yet I'm going into the next season not even excited. Like, that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen, man. I don't know. But anyway, guys, yeah, that's kind of just my, like I said, I wanted to stream again, kind of get past the whole race part. I had to go do something on my car and do a couple little things, but I just wanted to get another stream in, just kind of a good closing to the season. I probably won't have any live streams related to racing related things. I will have some Sunday specials starting next week. Not sure what or how I'm going to do them, but I'm going to do some. So we'll have Sunday specials returning next week. Live streams will be far more rare. You might see them on new arrivals, you know, new cars coming in, stuff like that. You'll still see some streams, but it'll definitely slow down a little bit. And like I said, going into next year, you're going to see just less reviews. Me and the sport are at odds. I just can't like a sport that doesn't take its own self seriously, and I'm having trouble with it. And I don't want to leave the season and multiple races this year feeling just disgusted. You know, I don't have that with NFL games often. Like, my team made mistakes. They got, you know, the refs, whatever. But I don't leave the game really disgusted, where I have left multiple races and just been like, really, that? Like, oh, that's dumb. You know, the Roval, when the sign got called for a caution and then turned into a clown show with everyone crashing each other and spinning out the leader, and you know, the same thing at Indy with that road course. Like, I don't want to leave races going, really? That was stupid. And yet, I've done it so many times with NASCAR over the last 2 seasons, it's just getting old. I mean, even races I've been at. Kyle Busch won Kansas last year after a late race yellow, and Kyle Larson just got knocked up the hill. And then, you know, it was one of those races where you're just like, what did I just watch? That was dumb. So, you know, I think I'm still going to watch next year. We'll still do some streams, I think. And we'll see what the offseason brings. But I don't know. This is the first offseason I've gone into just being like, feeling literally hopeless that this sport's never going to recover. They're never going to get it right. Because I don't think they have the right people in charge. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But they are so focused on entertainment, they are just missing the mark everywhere else. And it's just not something I think is going to last long term. I think as I get older, I'm going to continue to watch racing, but I think it's just going to transition into a lot more of the dirt, the IndyCar, the Formula One stuff, because it's still, you know, real racing. NASCAR has admitted they're sports entertainment. They're not racing. They're not motorsport. They're sports entertainment. And that tells you all you need to know about their leadership. So until they, I guess, make any significant changes, I'm just going to have to accept it as such, you know. But anyway, let's see here. I'll go a couple more chats here. Is this the end of the stream? It's getting close. I'll wrap it up here in about the next 5 minutes. Picks for the championship in 2023, way too early, but going into next year, I'm going to pick... Who do I want to pick? I'm going to pick Ross Chastain again. I'm going to pick Denny Hamlin. I'm going to pick Ryan Blaney. And I'm going to pick... I know it's going to sound weird, but I'm going to pick Alex Bowman. I think Blake Harris is going to make a big difference for them. So I'm going to pick Alex Bowman. I'm going to go Bowman, Chastain, Blaney, and Hamlin. I don't think the 9 is going to be back. I mean, they had a great regular season that really was the only reason that it carried them in. But let's be honest. Pocono, they didn't even actually cross the line first. Atlanta is a super speedway. Talladega is a super speedway. That's 3 of his 5 wins. Nashville, the Toyotas were better. And Dover, you know, he just got that one kind of legitly. But I think he'll have some wins next year. I think there were a lot of things that broke his direction this year that really helped him. And I don't know that happens every year. So, you know, I haven't been impressed with Alan Gustafson's strategy, pit strategy-wise, to help get him out front, give him track position, and see if he can go win races. So until I see something different, I think they have to get better at pit strategy before I'm going to put them in the Final Four again. Noah will win 2 races, I'll say. Oof, that's a strong thing. I do think Petty GMS is going to look really good next year. I think Petty GMS is going to look solid. Truex, I don't know, man. These cars, you have to be so aggressive to make passes, and I just don't think that's Truex. I think he'll have good speed, and I do think Truex will win a couple races. Elliott will make it again. Like I said, I don't know. He barely made it this year. And he had a 40-point cushion coming into those things, you know? I think until they get better on the pit strategy side, a little bit better on the speed side, I don't know if I like, you know, I don't think it's going to work. I don't know if they'll make the Phoenix win for Zane Smith. I'm not 100% sure on that one. Cody Ware, I'm not sure about that. I don't think I'll get that one. No, we ain't doing that. Do I think Lionel will make Zane's Phoenix win? They still haven't offered it. They haven't offered Ty Gibbs win either, which we knew wasn't going to happen. So I do think the Zane Smith one they're going to ask about, but they got to get sponsor approvals first. So give them a couple days to get that figured out, because Truck Series sponsorships are a lot more fluid than Cup Series ones. All right, guys, we'll throw any more questions you got quickly, and I'll answer them here in the next couple minutes, and then we're going to call her a night and call her a season. We'll have hopefully some streams in the off season, but I don't think there will be any for at least a couple weeks. So stay tuned next week, though. Sunday specials will return. GMS, I heard, talked with Noah about not making a fool out of himself, so Petty and especially Jimmy will show him the way. Honestly, I hope they just let Noah be Noah. You know, make him train, make him, you know, do the work, put the effort in to be a good driver, but also, you know, let the guy be himself, because it's worked. I mean, the guy has been super popular amongst the fans, myself included. He's been super fun to watch, been really entertaining. He really adds a nice element, and I don't think you need to, I don't think they need to make that any harder on themselves. I think they're offering a Ty Gibbs. Yeah, they're making the Interstate Batteries car with the Champion logo because they can't do Monster. I think they will fix the short tracks, and Elliott is good at them, and hopefully he doesn't get junked at road courses. Maybe he gets more wins. It's definitely possible. Like I said, he should have. Let me get completely honest. He should have won Watkins Glen. He should have won the Roval. And he probably had the best car at Sonoma after Larson had pitted early. So You know, there were other wins out there. I think he'll do fine next year. I think, you know, like 2021, things went about as bad as possible for Elliott. Like, there were a ton of races last year he could have won and had just something that shouldn't, you know, something kind of popped up that kind of ruined his race. You know, the Roval. The Roval. He was the fastest car, got junked by Harvick. Bristol got run into by Harvick. You know, Daytona Road Course. A freaking caution for nothing, I guess. I don't know how you even would explain that. So then you have that one. He was pretty good at Kansas last fall. Martinsville led a ton of laps, then got dumped from second spot. Like, you know, there were a lot of races last year he probably had a shot to win and just had some bad luck kind of come his way. So, you know, that being said, I do think that this year he kind of had the opposite, got some wins he maybe shouldn't have, but you know, sometimes those things just balance out. Yeah, it doesn't feel like the season's over. Like, I would agree. I think it feels like the season, like, it's over, but it didn't come to a, you know, like the Super Bowl happens, you're like, well, that's it for the NFL season. You know, it all kind of ties up with a nice bow. It feels like they never tied the bow. It just kind of feels like, oh, I guess that's the season? Okay, then. Yeah, didn't feel like it was that long ago at Cindric winning the 500. Kind of crazy. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed the stream. Like I said, just this one was more just a quick little like wrap up for the season. But like I said, Sunday specials are coming out next week, so stay tuned for those all off season long. We'll have plenty of those, and we'll have kind of some different other things to do. I'll do some breakdowns and some fun stuff like that as I get some more time. Might make a snowmobiling video or two, you know, just like that. But for now, that'll wrap up our season. A couple more chats quick. Any sponsor predictions for Kyle at RCR? I will say Sling TV, and I think he's going to end up with a full-time, like one of the bigger sponsorships from, like a Cabela's style, maybe. I'm not sure, something like that. Feel for the Chase fans out there. Brutal way for his championship season to end. Definitely not a fun one. I'll give it that. Been an amazing year, in my opinion. I've been to 2 dream races. I've always wanted to go to Bristol Night and to the 600. Made a ton of memories I'll never forget. And don't forget. I think don't want it to be over is what you're trying to say there. Yeah, so don't want it to be over. I agree, but I'm ready. Like, it's okay to have the off season. Get us a couple little break and then get ready for next season. Had an amazing Friday with Zane winning, but Saturday and Sunday were deep and dark. Definitely agree there. I was not thrilled about yesterday, not thrilled about today. And again, you got to remember, I root for the deserving champion. Like last year, Phoenix, I was rooting for Elliott. Don't get me wrong, I'm still a fan. But when Larson won instead of Elliott, I said, good. I'm glad at least he got it because that's the guy who deserved it. And I went into the season kind of just like, yep, things worked out right. This year, sorry, they didn't work out right. I can't be happy, you know. Elliott will get redemption 2023 and win the title with Hamlin second. I wouldn't even mind Hamlin getting it, but like I said, I want the best guy to win every year. Every year, I want the best guy to win. And 6 out of 9 years, I've been pretty disappointed. Pretty disappointed. So, anyway, guys, thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. We will see you next week in the Sunday special, but stay tuned for the streams when they come through. And here's to a better season next year in 2020.